Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Good afternoon and welcome to the Voice of the Kids YouTube and Facebook page. Today we continue with the Matric revision sessions for this year 2024, and that is in collaboration with the Two Oceans Graduate Institute, our official sponsor for this year's Matric revision sessions. For today we continue our session with Mr. Riedwaan. We'll continue his course pertaining to engineering, as well as how engineering students will be able, the engineering graphics design students will be able to prepare adequately for the upcoming NSC exams. Without further ado, we immediately hand over to Mr. Riedwaan to conduct today's session, inshallah.
Shukran Amir. Assalamu alaikum to everyone. Greetings and good afternoon to everyone. It's me again, Riedwaan, the engineering graphics and design specialist who will be taking you through another question, and I want to just show you where we are today in terms of our sessions. This is session number 3, and if I share my screen with you, you'll be able to see the outline which I've started with right at the beginning. And just to tell you where we are is that last week we tackled solid geometry, which is one of the questions that could be asked in question 2, paper 1. So we are still busy with paper 1. This week, today, we are going to be focusing on the alternative which could be asked, which is interpenetration and development. So remember what I said, they could either ask you interpenetration and development, or they could ask you solid geometry, but not both. So you have to prepare for both of these questions to be able to equip yourself suitably for the NSC examination. So I have, however, selected one of the many interpenetration and development drawings from the past Matric papers, and I think this specific one I've just randomly took, and it's the GBE November 2012. For what reason I took it, I don't know. I just have seen over years that this is the type of questions that they ask, whether it's going to be like this on this side or on that side, or whether it's penetrating on an angle. This one, of course, penetrates at a 90-degree angle. So I'm going to read the instructions, and then we're going to follow the exact instructions to be able to complete the drawings from 2.1 until 2.4. So what it does state here, however, and it's very important to read the information just before you start and to get an understanding of what you are doing and what you are going to draw. So here we have question 2, interpenetration and development. What is given to you, 3 bulleted points, is the incomplete, very importantly, incomplete front view and the top view of a regular square prism. Now, we're just going to pause there. A regular square prism. There is a square, and that is the prism that you see there penetrating on a 90-degree angle to this one over here. And there you see the top view of that. And of course, this is the front view that you see. And it's important for you to label it. This being your front here, that being your top that you see here. And then we continue that the regular prism that has been shaped to fit around a right regular hexagonal prism. And there is the main part, which is upright like that. That's a hexagonal prism that is situated on the XY line. And from the top, you see the shape as it is here. Now, it's slightly tilted at an angle of 15 degrees. So it's very important for you to be able to know how to start this drawing. Then we continue with the instruction saying that the axis of both prisms lie in common vertical plane. And this is such an important statement. Both axes of both prisms will then lie in common vertical plane, meaning that the center of this prism, which is your square, and there's your square, is lining up with the center of the hexagon, as you can see here. That is the center lining up with the center. That is what that statement means. Okay? And it means here as well that that center links up with the center over here. It continues with bulleted point 2, The auxiliary view of the square prism, the head has been given to you. It has a length of 42. You also see that the hexagon has a one side of 34. It's very important. They give you only a few dimensions. The height here is 70, and you have an extension out here for the square prism of 50 from the center. So it's important to note those dimensions. And it carries on with bulleted point number 3. The position of point O on the drawing sheet has been given to you, and we can move over. It's always nice if they do give you a starting point O. The reason for that is then you don't have to do a lot of space planning in terms of where you're going to start and whether it's going to all fit in on the big white sheet. So if they give you a starting point, it is actually a good thing. Then you know that you will work within the frame of this blank space to be able to complete all the necessary detail. However, if the starting point is not given to you, then you have to gauge perhaps where is the best possible place to start. And obviously your start is going to be the center of that. And for you to be able to ensure that you fit everything in onto that space, the white space. And that is important for you to do space planning before you actually start this activity. All right, in this case, we have a starting point, so we don't need to worry about that. So let us start by looking at what we're going to do first. So I'm going to take you through the process where I would say the number one thing we're going to do is we're going to start with the drawing of the hexagon in the top around the center point O, or the starting point O. And then ignoring this for the moment, just projecting lines up. These points here, you can see that's why they are dark, getting the height and completing halfway the front view of the hexagon only. Then we are going to look at this particular auxiliary view here, which has a length of one side of 42, and we're going to draw that as it is here incomplete. We then project down, and there are many ways of how you can get these points so that they link up here by either drawing a 45-degree line here, or simply you can draw another auxiliary view here. In this case, we will have to look at what the instructions tell us. So the instructions clearly state that we need to draw to scale 1:1 the following views of the two prisms. 2.1, the given top view, so that's where I started, or I'm going to start. You will have to draw then a left view as well. So there's going to be a left view on your right hand side. Keep in mind, this is first orthographic projection. The left view is on your right hand side. If you have a right view, it becomes your left it's drawn on your left side. So it's important for you to understand that. And then, learners, we will have to complete the front view, clearly showing the curve of interpenetration, which will be in this space over here, retrieved from these points that touch or interpenetrate in the top view. And then finally, 2.4, you will have to develop the surface of the square prism, which is the branch one, which branches from the side at 90 degrees. So those are the 4 things that we need to do for a mark of 35 in total. And you need to show all the hidden detail and folding lines when you do that. All right, let's start. I'm just going to stop and share my screen again. So here we have the start of what we need to do. It's grade 12, paper 1, question 2, interpenetration and development. So here I've set up my drawing. I've identified my center point, which is center point O there. What I need to do is to look at what angles on my drawing fits my set square and my T square, if they work in tandem. And there I can see it doesn't fit my 30 and 60, but it does, however, fit the 45 degrees. And I've identified a line that goes through 2 points. So from that center, I draw the line clearly. there, because it's a 45 through those 2 points here, I'm going to use my one length, which is going to be 34, mark it clearly from the center point, and use that as my radius. So I anchor my point, my compass at O, and I draw a circle with a radius of 34. I identified the 2 points which I have here in my given, and then I take my same radius and I cut off parts on the circumference of my circle. And by doing so, I have now formulated my hexagon. So I can see that 2 sides are going to be 45, which is parallel to the center line which I've drawn, and I can darken that immediately. And then the other angles I just need to construct with my straight edge without using my t-square, which means that I already have the points where I'm going to draw it to. So I don't need to use my t-square when I do that. And there you can see I'm drawing nice and dark lines. My circle, of course, remains a faint section because it's part of the construction. Now, my XY line is not given any distance away, so I can draw it anywhere above my top view. And I project all my corners up to my front view. And in a moment, I'm going to label those corners as well. I can label it A, B, C, D, E. Or if you understand it really well, you don't even need to label it, but it's important to label the auxiliary view when we get to that. My height from my XY line, remember my XY line is the separation between the two views, and my front view is situated on top of my XY line, which is sort of serving as a base. So you will see I will draw the part dark, which is the part of my front view constructed from my, or projected from my top view. So there's my one side, and I can use these lines from my given drawing, which I have here on the side. That's a dash line there, or a hidden detail line, because it is situated at the back. That line will be a dark line because it's seen here in front. Remember, I'm standing here where my cursor is on the screen, and all those lines that are dashed are corners of the hexagon, which are at the back, which are there but cannot be seen. So I'm going to leave this open here because my curve of interpenetration will be there later. I'm going to proceed. I haven't touched, learners, I haven't touched on my auxiliary view. I haven't touched on my square prism. I'm only focusing on the hexagon. And if you find yourself with this type of drawing, I would advise you to only work with the hexagon first. In some cases, you are not asked to draw a right view or a left view. You only need to draw the two views with the auxiliary view. But in this particular instance, you have to draw the extra view. And there is a reason for that. You will see it come out in the drawing moments after this. So what I am going to do, I'm creating another XY line any distance away. Remember, any distance away, it's not given to us. And now I am going to draw a 45 from where the two XY lines, the vertical and horizontal line, actually meet. And then I'm going to project all my corners of my hexagon like I've done in my front view. I'm going to do that onto my 45, and then I will project it up to formulate my left view on my right hand side. So you can see my lines are nice and evenly drawn faintly for you to be able to trace the different points. I, of course, have my base, which is at the bottom, and my top base, which is right at the top. And now I'm going to darken the section of the part that I need, which is there, and the top part that I need to highlight will be drawn solidly there. I will draw the sides of my hexagon. And then just before I am going to proceed, you can see now I've got incomplete views, but I've got a structure, because here will be something else coming in here, which is going to be my auxiliary view, which is going to formulate from the square prism that I will be drawing. So what I am doing right now, just to pause, I've created now the halfway mark, which is 35, which is half of 70, because this auxiliary view is exactly marked center halfway of the 70, which I've done. And there I've indicated that, and I've drawn a line right through to indicate my 35, which is halfway. I also know that this center here has to come over onto my 45-degree line, and it has to be projected up so that I have that center by center, center of that by center of my height. Reason, as the statement stated earlier on, both planes or both centers lie in common vertical plane. That is what I'm doing at the moment. So I'm going to proceed, and you will see I found my center point over there, and my auxiliary view has a length of 42. So I'm going to measure 21, because I'm going to draw a circle, and I need to draw a 21 radius so that I have a diameter of 42. And you will see clearly now my reason for doing that. There is my circle very faintly drawn. And now, remember, it is 21 from the center to the circumference, which is my radius, but my entire diameter from circumference to circumference would then be 42. And now I'm going to check my set square to see whether it fits the angle, and it does. It's 45 degrees. And now I'm going to draw tangents. And the tangent is a line that shaves the circumference of a circle. And I first draw that faint to see whether it's going to fit perfectly, and then I will be able to highlight that by drawing that dark. So what I've actually done is that I'm drawing my left view on my right hand side with the true shape of that square prism here, which means I don't need to draw an auxiliary view. I already have it here in my left view on my right hand side. And all I'm going to do now is I have to fit in my corners, and you will see some corners will be dark and some corners will be dashed. The reason is where they are situated. Okay, so if you look at what I'm doing at the moment, there will be some that will be dark and then some that will be dashed in between. And I will have to explain why I am doing it like that. So you will see here, those are dark sections, and then there will be a dashed part in between. So just to give you an explanation of what has transpired here, I am looking at this particular view from this point here, from this side here, and this corner here, which I am tracing, is going to be dark, but only at the top and the bottom, because this now is in front of that corner, which means that the corner still continues, but I can't see it, so it has to be shown in dash format. The same with this one here. I am looking at that corner. That corner I can clearly see. This corner here is at the back, because I'm standing here. That corner cannot be seen because it is on the far side. It's completely dashed. This one I can see only this part here and that part, and it hidden behind this part that interpenetrates here, from the side. So that is the reason why I have it in certain dash formats and certain dark formats. Right, let's continue. I've drawn that view. That view has now been completed. I'm going to label it number 1, 2, 3, and 4. And it doesn't matter how you label it. You can label it in any way. So just to zoom in so that you can see the labels. Now I'm going to project my number 1 down, my number 2 and 4 both in the same line, and number 3 down. And I'm using a green color to show you that. I take it right across all 4 points. And now from the center, I'm going to measure 50 millimeters as per instruction. 50 millimeters as per instruction. And that is where my cutoff point would be. And there I'm going to draw a line right through, because it's going to have an effect in the front view as well. And all I need to do is to complete the top view by drawing in the dark sections. And these sections you actually have present in your instruction side in your given drawing. So there I have completed my top view. I'm going to label my points there as well. Number 1, and it's important for you to label your points. Number 2 and 4 is in the same line. And number 3. Now, just to pause, remember number 4 is on top and number 2 is at the bottom. If we're going to look at it from this view, number 2 at the bottom, 4 on top. Number 3 is the one that's closest to us because we are standing here where my cursor is. And number 3 is on the far side, the back part, and that is why that will be dashed as well, right? Let's continue. So now I'm going to take my points and project it over to my front view so that I can complete my front view and incorporate the curve of interpenetration as well. So you will see it doesn't extend further than this because that is the cutoff. So I'm going to have a dark line there. And then just to start things off, I'm going to draw what I have in the given, which is precisely what I'm doing right now. But it can't be just like that because that's given to you. You now need to find the curve of interpenetration. So now I am labeling it number 4 at the top, number 2 at the bottom, number 1 and 3 in the middle here, of which 3 is closest to me. I identify my points where it interpenetrates and I project that up, and I'm using a red color to show that. That represents 2 points, 2 and 4. This one represents number 3. And now all I have to do, learners, is to find the coordinates, to plot the coordinates of 1, 2, and 3 in this space here. Let me see whether we do that. So number 1, where's number 1? I match it. There's number 1, and I'm going to label that number 1. This is a very important process that we're following now. Then we have number 2 and 4, which is 2 at the bottom, and they are in the same line, and number 4 is at the top. That is where 2 and 4 interpenetrates vertically and horizontally, and that is number 3, which is right there. But unfortunately, I can't connect the points yet. Reason being is that it wraps around 2 corners of my hexagon, and these 2 corners actually make a dent in that space over there. It makes a dent. So we need to take those into consideration as well. So what we're going to do, we're going to identify them as A and B. Now it's 2 points. It's at the bottom and top, and I'm going to label them later as A1, or 1A, 2A, and 1B and 2B. So I'm going to take that point. It's going to be on this here, on this line here, which I have already. But I project that also across onto my 45. It's going to be on this line and that line. But very importantly, where they cross with that square prism, which is going to be there, here, and I'm going to plot that, and here at the bottom. Remember what I said? So that's A and A, both A's. Let's make the one on top. 1 and 1B, or sorry, 2A and 1A, and then we have B, 1B at the top, 2B at the bottom. You can name them X and Y as well. Doesn't matter what you name it, but just where they actually interpenetrate. And then I'm going to take that over, first the A's, and then I take the B's over. Now you need to find them. A is going to be here. It's on this edge here, on this edge, right? It's on that edge. That is where it is, on this edge. There it is. And the bottom one is right there on that edge as well. So that's 1A and 1 and 2A. And then B is obviously going to be on this B point over here, where we have the top one, 1B and 2B right there. And now you have all your points. Now the important process comes. How do we connect it? All I need to tell you here is that if this part is going to be invisible, and this part here that can be seen is going to be visible where I'm standing with my arrow. That's going to be visible. So everything will be dark on this side, and that will be dashed. So let's start. That's going to be firstly visible. You will see there, right? It's visible there, right? Everything here. And then if we go and draw a line from number 4 at the top, right? There's number 4. Remember, that's the line that separates visibility and non-visibility, which I have there. So from 4, and I'm just to show you again, that's visibility. The blank is invisible. So if I draw a line from 4 to 1B, from 4 to 1B, which is there, from 4 to 1B. Okay, you will see now, that's 1B. And that's a dark line because it's on this side. Then from 1B to 3, which is going to be the furthest point there, as you can see. And then from 3 to 2B, which is right there. And then from 3B to number 2. Here we go. That's all the visibility that there would be because it's on this side. Now it becomes dashed from 2 to 2A. Right? It's just that up from 2 to 2A. From 2A to number 1, which is that point over there, which is dashed. That's now at the back. From 1 to 1A, which is going to be there, still at the back, still dashed. And the last part also dashed from 1A to back to 4 where we started. And that is your curve of interpenetration. You just need to extend that line there because that is the corner that's closest to you, which can be seen. Remember, there is another line underneath that, which is 1, which is this one at the back here, which is dashed, but it cannot be seen because the solid line takes preference over the hidden detail line. Right, there you have completed your interpenetration. We're just going to add the dash line there, which is representing the other side of that hexagon there, the corner that you will see here. And then also just this corner that you will see here, which is dark, which is that corner B that you will see part dark and then dash in the middle there. Because if you look at it, that is that part that wraps around here. And that part, it wraps around, cannot be seen. So it has to be dashed. And that part is visible at the top and the bottom, which are the ones that we draw dark. Right. So we are going to move to the last part, which is going to be 2.4, which is the development of the surface of the square prism. So this is the square prism that we see here. So we're going to develop only this part here. So you will see that I'm literally pulling this out as it is here, and I'm unfolding it like a net and putting it flat down in this space here. So what I'm doing is that the flat side here is the straight line, which I'm going to draw faint here, and I'm going to work my way from the flat line, which is the straight line, that way to be able to determine where my points are and what the shape is going to look like. Right, so let's start with the straight line, and there you have my straight line. And of course, how many parts are there? There are 4 parts. 1, 2, 3, 4 parts, and it has each a length of 42, which I'm using my compass to measure 42, all, and there are 4, so I have 1, I've got 2, 3, and the 4th one. And then I'm going to extend my lines where it's going to fold, very faintly, of course, as it develops. And then next, I need to label. I'm going to start at number 4, which is at the top, the shortest side always the shorter side. And then I will have number 1, and I'm going right around number 2, number 3, and back to 4, right? 4, 1, 2, 3, and back to 4. I started at the top here. And now, very importantly, I start my lengths from my straight line to the point where it interpenetrates. So there's my first point, number 4, I arc, and then I go to the second point, which is number 1. Number 1 is right there, and I arc every time from my straight line, which is at the back. And then my point number 2, which is that point over there, I'm going to arc. And then I'm going to go to point number 3, which is my furthest point, which is that point over there, and I arc. And of course, number 4 is the same as the starting one, which has the same distance there. But, learners, those are not the only points. What about A and B? And they are in the middle of 1, 2, 3, 4, somewhere in the middle. We need to determine where the position is of 1, where the position is, the position of A, the position of B on this flat net development that we have there. So where do we find that information? Let's see. So you go back here to the true shape here, and you will see that here are the points. A1 or 1A and 2A. So they are equally apart from number 1. So there you can see equally apart, there and there, equally apart. So I'm going to go to number 1 and do both sides. It's on that side and at the bottom, because they are between 1 and 4 and 1 and 2. So there I mark it, and I mark it like that. So now that one there is 1A, and this one here is 1B. Sorry, 2A. Sorry, 2A, which is that point and that point there. And then I go and do the same thing here with the small B points, both on the sides of number 3. And there we have number 3 on both sides, equally measured. And I will now label them as that one being 2B, which is there, and the other one is going to be 1B, which I have there. And I draw my lines, and now I can find where the height or the length of each one is. And then I go to first the A ones, that's the A. Both A's are the same. So there I have my A line, both my A line length I have, and then I go to my B points, which is from the straight line here onto the B, which is 2B and 1B. And I plotted all my points. All I need to do now is to connect all my points like a graph. You will see all my points will be connected, and it takes a particular shape. And I draw it nice and dark, forming the actual interpenetration shape that we have wrapping around the hexagonal prism. Don't forget, learners, that you should add the dark lines right around, so your edges must be dark as well, the top and bottom or the two sides, and your baseline must be dark as well. And then there should be a line difference because the folding lines are in between faint and dark, which is a light line. That's a folding line. So you need to show those folding lines, not as dark as the outline, but not as light as the construction lines. It must just be perfectly in the middle for you to be able to attain the mark. And there you've completed. And how do we mark? There's the memo. Let's just pause for a moment. You will see that these are half marks that you will get for those here connecting to the hexagon. And then the hexagon itself has 4 marks. The way it is drawn here has 4 marks. If you draw the hexagon with this flat, you're not going to lose all the marks. You're just going to lose 1 mark for the rotation, but you will still get the other marks. If you fail to angle it like this and you just draw it like they normally do, flat side, you're still going to get a few marks, which would be 3 marks, and you will lose the 1 mark for the rotation. That is how we mark. The left view on your right hand side, for each of these sides or corners, you will have a half a mark, and for the square prism, you will have 2 marks. The way it is drawn there, one is the position, if you have it correctly positioned, and the other ones would be for the diamond shaped 45-degree lines that you have there. And then this is where the bulk of the marks are, because you get a mark for each of these corners of the hexagon, and for each of these corners and the back or the base here of the square. But for every point correctly plotted, you get a mark, and for every line that connects from the one point to the other, you get a mark as well. So that's very important, to plot your points and to draw the line. You actually lose the mark if the lines, if you have a dash line where there should be a dark line, then you actually lose the mark. But those plotted points, that is where we actually score learners the marks, and you need to ensure that these are correctly plotted. And then for the development, you will see that the development has the different divisions here, and each of the plotted points has a half a mark. There's a double mark, which is a full mark for the highest point plotted. And then for the folding sections, there are half a marks allocated as well. Now, just before we end off, just this last saying, as a marker, as a moderator, as a senior marker, I want to say the following to you. Should you mess up here, should you mess up with not having maybe the two in-betweeners here, and you only have whatever, the main points here, should you have that, and you apply that here, you are still going to get the marks for what you have taken from here and plotted here. If you plot incorrect points here, this is very important to understand. If you plot incorrect points here, we are going to penalize you on this drawing, this view here. But if you take those incorrect points over into this particular development here, and you plot it according to the incorrect points, you will be rewarded for all these points that you've plotted from the incorrect ones, because we only penalize learners once. We can't penalize you twice. You followed through with a mistake, and you actually did the right thing from a mistake that you made previously. And that is how positively we mark in grade 12. So that's it for the interpenetration and development, grade 12s. I hope you're going to find benefit out of this explanation and the example that I shared, and that it will help you to get a better understanding of interpenetration and development. Next week is going to be very exciting. We're moving on to question number 3, which is going to be perspective drawings, something that many grade 12s are struggling with. All the best. Keep well until we see one another next week. Inshallah. Have a great Great day. Keep well. All the best.
MashaAllah, we say shukran, jazakallah khair, and Baitra Makasi to Mr. Riedwaan Bassier, who so beautifully gave over today's discourse pertaining to engineering, graphics, and design. I hope that all of the students who are preparing for the upcoming matric revision have enjoyed the session. And please, as always, forward and share this link of the YouTube page of the Voice of the Cape and the Facebook page of the Voice of the Cape to all of those who are preparing for the upcoming matric exams, inshallah, specifically the NSC exams. This is the Voice of the Cape's online matric revision program for this year 2024. And of course, it's proudly being sponsored by the Two Oceans Graduate Institute, which is an accredited online platform where you can become a primary school or a high school teacher by studying in the privacy of your own home. If you'd like to find out more information, you may contact the Two Oceans Graduate Institute on their number that is 021 829 7015, or you may visit their website www.togi.ac.za. Once again, on behalf of us here at the Voice of the Cape, we'd like to thank Mr. Riedwaan Bassier for so beautifully facilitating today's session, and we wish you all of the matriculants who are preparing for your upcoming examinations all of the very best. Shukran. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.